G'day guys and welcome to this episode of The Process of Success. I'm here with England and Middlesex fast bowler Stephen Finn. Finny, thanks for joining me.
Pleasure.
For those of you that don't know Finny's stats, he's played 36 tests with 125 wickets, 69 one-day internationals and 21 2020s and 147 first-class matches. Now Finny, to start with, how did you get into cricket? You were born in Watford. Did you play from a young age or how did you first get into cricket?
I like my family's a cricket family, so grew up with dad playing, me being pushed around in a pram at the cricket club and just picked it up along the way. Like my mum did the tees and we spent all our time at the cricket club when I was a youngster, and I loved the environment, loved playing cricket with my mates, and that's what made me fall in love with the game.
So your dad was a cricketer?
Yeah, he played like minor counties cricket and good level club cricket. And yeah, it was more the atmosphere at the cricket club that I fell in love with, and then as I got older and got a bit better, I fell in love with the game even more.
And what cricket club was that?
Watford Town Cricket Club is where my dad played, and then Langlebury is where when I was 8 I started playing, just again every weekend, midweek with my mates, and it just sort of grew from there.
So that was your first where you started to play competitively, and were you always, obviously you're tall and it's good for fast bowling, but you're always a quick bowler from the very start?
Yeah, always quickish, medium pace. But yeah, I always knew that I wanted to be a fast bowler. My idol was Glenn McGrath, and I watched him a lot on the TV when I was young, especially Ashes series and World Cups and stuff. So yeah, I sort of knew that I always wanted to be a fast bowler, and then as soon as I was old enough, I wanted to play and be out there.
And at what age did you realise that you were pretty good and wanted to take it more seriously and maybe have it as a profession?
Still not until I was about 14 or 15, I wouldn't say. I think like I played representative stuff for Hertfordshire until I was 14 years old, but it's then when I sort of started getting picked up by Middlesex that I realised that it could be something. Spent a couple of winters training with the academy when I was I think 13 and 14, and realised that it was something I wanted to try and pursue and make a career of.
And at that time when you started with Middlesex, did you have some coaches that you were fond of, or some mentors that you still go back to now?
Not necessarily. I think that then it was about finding out what your style of bowling is or what makes you good. I think that at that age it's important that you work out the style of bowler or the sort of bowler that you want to be, and work towards that rather than someone else shaping that opinion. So I had coaches who were there, but I always knew that I wanted to be a fast bowler who bowled as quick as I possibly could, and that's sort of the basic blueprint of what I've tried to do since that age.
Awesome. And then how did you transition from Hertfordshire to Middlesex? Was it just through playing county games or?
No, it ended a bit sorely really. Hertfordshire tried to stop me moving to Middlesex so that I could play for the Hertfordshire under-15s as opposed to be exposed to a lot better coaches and stuff in the Middlesex setup. So I think Toby Radford, who was the academy director for Middlesex at the time, who eventually became first team coach at Middlesex, he approached me when I was 13 or 14 to come and be a part of the Middlesex Academy, to train on a Tuesday and a Thursday night with them, and that's really where I had my first real exposure to the professional side of the game as opposed to the casual fun-loving side of the game.
So then you made your first class debut for Middlesex at the age of 16. How did you manage school and playing professional cricket, and what are your memories from that first class debut?
I think that school was always the priority for me, even when I was that age and had started on my first contract when I turned 16 with Middlesex. I didn't really ever neglect schoolwork because I never knew, even at that age, that I was going to be good enough to make a career out of it. So, you have the dreams and the aspirations of playing professional cricket, and you give that everything when it's that time. But when it was time to work on my school stuff, I did that as well. So it's important to have a healthy balance, and that's something that even as you go through your career, I think that having a healthy balance between cricket and something else is a good thing that helps you, remain pretty level when it comes to dealing with success and failure, which I think you can get into yourself at an early age, realising that cricket isn't the be all and end all. Like, yes, it's great to play it, but at that age my schoolwork was important, and I did as much as I could. And then my memories of playing that game, I didn't bowl that much. I don't think I only bowled 20 overs in the game, but I just remember enjoying it. I was a very different bowler then to what I am now. And just being around guys. I was playing in a team that had Test cricketers in. I think Owe Shah, Ed Smith, Jamie Dalrymple were playing in that team. So there were some quite big names, and it could have been quite daunting as a 16-year-old. But luckily they were welcoming to me, and yeah, it was good fun, and going out there and showing those guys, especially, what you could do. Who hadn't really seen me bowl before, apart from in the nets a few times. I just tried to enjoy it, and yeah, I have fond memories.
Did you feel ready when you got selected, or were you just a bit naive to maybe know?
Yeah, I think naive, and again, I think that if you put too much importance on performing, or put yourself under too much pressure, especially in situations like that, you'll never get the best out of yourself. So I think I was pretty relaxed, but again, I had a good support network around me. My parents, the people that I was playing with. Billy Godwin, my best mate, was playing in the same game with me and made our debuts together. So having those people there and around keep you level and just help you enjoy it.
And you've mentioned a few times having a balance and sort of not, I suppose, caring too much about it, but was that something that you've had all throughout your career, or is that something you've learned as you've got older?
No, I definitely gone through phases. I think when I first started playing international cricket, and even for the first few years, I put myself under a lot of pressure, and to go out there and perform, and maybe didn't enjoy it as much as I potentially could have done. But as I've got older, in all cricket that I play, I just try and enjoy it now, and enjoy the challenge of going out there and trying to do your best against whoever you're playing against. And if you can enjoy it and have fun, I feel that that's a far better way to get more out of yourself than put yourself under pressure. But it's different for everyone, but you have to work out what works for you.
Absolutely. Self-awareness is something I think all the best players have, and work out what works best for them. Now, you then went on and played for the England under-19s. How did that come about? And was that on the back of your first class debut and doing well for Middlesex?
Yeah, I think I was lucky to have been involved in the England setup from about 12, 13 with the regional stuff, and then moving through to England under-15s. And I think I played quite early when I was 17, and I didn't play when I was 18 or 19 really, because I was lucky enough to be playing first class cricket. So again, it was just a new experience. Playing with guys who are 2 years older than you, 2 years stronger than you, is a really good experience to have when you're a young cricketer. And I think that I've always felt that playing men's cricket when I was young and then playing age groups up in age group cricket is something that helped me develop quicker, because I was playing against people who weren't bothered about the pace that I was bowling, who weren't bothered about anything else. They were more physically imposing than I was, and you had to find a way to survive, which I think is something that as you go through your career, you're put in that situation a lot, and you have to learn how to deal with them.
Absolutely. And now, out of 19s, you made your test debut pretty quickly after that, at the age of 20 in Bangladesh, against Bangladesh in Chittagong. How was that experience?
Again, I was called up as like a late replacement for Ryan Sidebottom, I think. So I went over there straight from a Lions tour in Dubai, that was my first Lions tour. So I was still very new to the environment at that level. I think I flew into Bangladesh and then played the next day in a 3-day warm-up game, and Andy Flower liked what he saw and decided to leapfrog me over the guys who'd been there preparing for the series for a while into that first test. And again, it all happened so quickly, so that I didn't really have a grasp of what was going on, that I was making my international test debut at a young age. I just went out there and tried to run in as hard as I could, bowl as quick as I could, remember those things that I thought about when I was a youngster, and try and have as much fun and enjoy it as much as I could. I was playing in a team with Peterson, Collingwood, Cook, Broad, guys who I'd watched on the TV and never met before, and then all of a sudden I was playing cricket with them. So it was an awesome experience, but I think that just going out there and trying to enjoy it was my overriding thing.
Awesome. And did you continue that enjoyment? You obviously did well, and you became sort of the young face of English cricket for a long time there. And was it something that you enjoyed, or did that cause you to feel an added pressure from doing well at the start and at a young age?
I don't really know, to be honest. I don't feel like it affected me. But again, you're always under pressure with the media scrutiny, regardless of who you are, when you're playing international cricket. And ultimately, they will always find something to pick at, I suppose. I don't think anyone's ever perfect, and everyone, even the best players in the world, have flaws and have areas to work on in their game. It just happens to be that in international cricket, people pick up on that. So yeah, maybe there was a period there where I listened too much to what the bowler that other people thought I should be, as opposed to the bowler that I knew I could be, which then makes you go searching for other things, which is probably where, along the way, if I have lost my way, that's probably where it's been.
Okay, interesting. Now, just getting into your mindset and habits a bit, have you done any form of mental conditioning throughout your career so far?
I Not really, no, because I've always felt that it's important to try and deal with each situation as it comes, and not be too regimented in the way that you deal with it. I have used psychologists before, but it's more to get me in a frame of mind where I'm happy with everything in my life, and comfortable about going out there. I think the one thing that I try my best to do is use nerves in a positive way rather than a negative way. I think that everyone gets nervous before they go out there and play or perform, and it can be viewed one of two ways. You can either look at it as a negative thing that's going to weigh you down and feel the pressure of having to go out there and perform, or you use your nerves in a good way to say that this is a way of making me feel alive, and using it as a buzz to go out there and use it as an excitement thing to go out there and show people what you can do, which I think is the best way you can possibly spin that.
So is that a story you've sort of had to tell yourself, or that's something that you've just done from the start?
No, it's something that I've had to teach myself to do. I think that, especially recently, I've got a lot better at using the nerves in a positive way. And I think that comes with age, and I think that comes with experience and realisation of what's actually going on. But when you feel them, you have a decision to make. You're at a crossroads, rather than letting them take their natural course, which I think for a lot of people would be a negative thing. I think if you can, consciously take those thoughts and nerves and use them in a positive way to say, again, like, this is something that makes me feel alive and makes me excited to go out there and perform, then I think it can be a really good thing.
Absolutely, and that's something that we get questions about all the time, is young players trying to learn how to deal with nerves. And I think just by changing that story, I think has a massive impact on how you feel and how you approach it.
It's important, yeah.
Now, as a batting coach, I talk to my players a bit about having a pre-ball routine to try and switch themselves on. I don't know a thing about fast bowling, but do you have a pre-ball routine at all? Do you sort of say something as you're turning and you're at the top of your mark, or do you focus on a certain thing?
I have very basic checkpoints, which is the smoothness of my run-up, which, when I've not been in form in whatever kind of cricket it is, my run-up isn't that smooth. So that's something that I work quite hard on. And I try and keep my left arm, my left elbow as close to my left hip as possible. So that means you're coming straight over the top and then following through down the wicket. So
that's in your delivery.
In my delivery, so like pulling like your front arm high and then into your hip, which.
And are you consciously focusing on that?
Not really. It's something that I focus a lot on in practice. But in a game, sometimes if you feel it's necessary, I will go back to that as a checkpoint. And I do have a pre-ball routine, but it's more of a distraction thing rather than anything else. As I'm turning, I'll look at certain things that I've pinpointed at whatever stage in the day, whether it's in the crowd, a boundary board or something, and I find that just helps me forget about everything else that's going on around me and just focus on what I'm about to do, as I'm turning. I think that having a pre-ball routine as a fast bowler is important, especially with the way that one-day cricket's going at the moment, because your mind can be racing at a million miles an hour when you're trying to deal with the situation of a batsman in front of you trying to smash you out of the park, or having already smashed you out of the park. And with the next ball being the most important thing, it's almost like drawing a line under the ball you've last bowled and moving on to the next one. So I do have a routine that is probably, it could potentially be more complicated than I made it sound there, but as a basic guideline, it's just trying to focus your mind in your turn before you start your run up on what you're about to do.
Yeah, and then whether you've bowled a good ball or not, or didn't execute as well as you would have liked, do you then have a post-ball analysis or a post-ball routine, or do you just try and switch off and relax?
I think it's switch off. I think that if you analyse what you've just delivered too much, I think you can get yourself in a circle. You see a lot of bowlers overcorrecting. If they've missed a Yorker short, the next one will be fuller, or if they've missed their line straight, the next one will be wider, and it's like a overcompensation. So I think that drawing a line under the last ball and literally just focusing on delivering your skill in the next ball, rather than thinking about what went wrong in the last ball, is the most important thing.
So even if you haven't executed, you've made a mistake, something that a lot of kids struggle with is overcoming a mistake quite quickly. Is that something you've always been able to do, or it's something you've had to work on over time?
Again, it sort of depends on what sort of rhythm you're in. If you've made a execution mistake, and you feel in good rhythm, you feel like you can just come back from it. I think there's a lot of different caveats to bowling where there are different conditions, footholds, balls, batsmen that can throw you off. So I think that having I've lost my train of thought there, but I think it's a very basic thing of drawing a line under the last ball and moving on to the next one. When you're dealing with things like that, is the most important thing.
Yeah. And now, how do you go about preparing for different formats? Obviously, the game's progressed over the last 13 years since you started. There's a lot more 2020 cricket. How do you prepare differently from, say, first class cricket to 2020 or one day cricket?
I think that, all three formats have different basic principles. I think that first class cricket is about smashing a good length on the top of off stump. So in your build up to a game, in your preparation for a game, that's the thing that you will focus on the most. I think that with one day and 2020 cricket, that variations and the ability to bowl in different periods of the game are the most important things. So in the build up to the game, I'll make sure that I practice my whole set of skills, whether it be a Yorker, bouncer, off cutter, leg cutter, back of the hand slow ball, whatever it may be, that in the build up to those games, especially the days before, that I will feel as I have those bases covered, and I won't really stop practicing until I feel as I have those nailed. And then on the day of the game, I think that it's trusting that preparation that you've done in the days before. So I try and do a lot less on a game day in terms of bowling prep, to save myself physically to be as explosive and as quick as I possibly can out there in the middle. And then I think in all three formats, for me, my job is to take wickets. If I'm focusing on anything else, then I'm probably doing myself and the team a disservice. So being able to know that you've got those sets of skills that you've practiced in the build up to the game is important. But then when you're on the day of the game, you have to tailor your bowling to get wickets to any conditions. So if it's a slow stoppy wicket, bowling cross seamers and cutters is going to be the most effective way. So I think it's assessing those conditions on the day of the game, regardless of the format. Again, for me, to take wickets is the thing that you have to do the quickest, and I think that's what the best bowlers do.
Yeah. And so do you have any mental differences from format to format? Like if it's 4-day cricket, you're obviously more patient, even though you're still trying to take wickets as regularly as possible, and 2020 cricket, you're sort of preparing to maybe get hit and stuff, or it's just something comes with experience?
I think that trying to be aggressive is important, and especially for a fast bowler in any format. I think that, and by aggressive, I don't mean bowling bouncers and getting it flying through past people's ears. I think that it's important that you have aggression in hitting whatever length you choose to bowl. And I think that patience is important in all three formats of the game, because ultimately in T20 and one day cricket, people can hit what you perceive to be your best ball for 6. And if you've executed what you wanted to do, accepting that a batsman can play a good shot and do that to you is almost the biggest skill. And then having the patience to be able to run up and try it again, or having having the guts to go and try it again, I think is, in one day in 2020 cricket, very important.
Yeah, awesome. Now, how do you handle the pressure of playing them in a big match? Obviously, your big matches are test matches or packed out 2020s, but for younger players who might be a final or they've got some selector watching, what are some sort of skills or what things do you do to handle the big matches?
I think remembering that the reason you've performed well up to that point to get to a final or to have a selector watching or something, realising that what you've done up to that point is good enough, and that searching for other things in the build up to your big day isn't going to help you go out there and perform at your best. So I think, again, I've been guilty in the past of listening to people and trying to be a bowler that I'm not. And I think it's important that you retain the things that make you you, especially when you're under pressure, or when you could potentially be under pressure, because ultimately the skills that you've practiced over the last number of years, months, whatever, are the things that you've got you to where you are. And if you continue doing those, then they'll stand you in good stead.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, fast bowling is incredibly hard on the body, as you more than anyone know. You've had your fair share of injuries, including leaving the most recent Ashes tour early. How have you dealt with the injuries throughout your career and the dark times that sort of come with those injuries?
I think you've got to be quite pragmatic about it, and again, you have to take as many positive things out of it as you possibly can. I think that I've been very fortunate to have 7 or 8 years pretty much untouched by injuries in the professional game, having missed a month here and there, and it not being, not missing out on too much. And recently have probably been my worst injury problems with my knee and it reoccurring and stuff. So I think that using it positively to go into other parts of your life, to develop other parts of your life, is important. And I think that also knowing that it's giving the rest of your body a break and a chance to freshen up. So your back, your shoulders, your ankles, everything is not having that load put through it. So you're in a rubbish situation that you can't play and you can't do too much, but using it to develop other areas of your body or other areas of your life is a good thing, and a way that can prolong your career. These 6 months that you have out now, you can add on at the end of your career if you use the periods of rest and periods of inactivity correctly.
So it's trying to find the positives in the tough situation.
Yeah, I'd say so. I think that if you focus on the negative things in everything, whether you be performing or whether it be your injuries or anything in your life, I think that it can weigh you down, and it can really affect your recovery, especially from an injury. The psychological part of coming back from an injury can affect your recovery. So I think that remaining pragmatic about it and using the best of the situation is probably the most important thing.
And so, having played a lot of international cricket over the last 10 years or so, what are some common traits you've noticed amongst the world's best players?
I think their hunger to improve, probably, with Jos Buttler being the English example of that. Always knowing that he has freaky talent, but always wanting to improve that and practicing hard to achieve that, whether that be physically or skills. Seeing him practice is like watching nothing else. He pushes himself to the limits in practice to make sure that when he goes out there, he's prepared to perform in the toughest environment. And I think that's why this summer especially we're seeing him perform in Test cricket, one day and T20, having successful IPL, being renowned as one of the best one day batsmen in the world. Even though he does have that tag and he's been a genius since I first watched him play, he still has that hunger and desire to improve. So I think that the best players in the world will never be satisfied with what they got. They will always look to improve and adapt their game to deal with the changing climate of one day cricket, and T20 cricket is moving at such a pace. If you don't keep up with it, you'll be left behind.
Absolutely. Now, how do you switch off from cricket? You obviously mentioned earlier about having balance. What do you do these days to get balance in your life and switch off from the game?
I'm very lucky that I live in London, which is one of the best, most exciting cities in the world. So just going out and doing things and escaping or letting your mind escape from cricket and the stress of cricket, which is something that at times I've struggled with in my career. I think that as I've got older, I've realised how important it is to not sit at home thinking about what your wrist's doing or where you are on the crease and things, because it can consume you and it can make you very mentally fatigued when it comes to performing. I think that having that thing outside, whether it be just being able to get on the tube and go and escape and walk along the River Thames or something as basic as that, it can just escape your mind from the presses of playing cricket. I'm like any other typical bloke. I like playing PlayStation. I like reading books. It's very basic things, but just that give you a few hours escape from thinking about the game, because as it is my job, naturally you think about it a lot, and think about how you want to improve, because you always have that desire to improve. It's almost the hardest thing is allowing yourself that time away from the game, and saying that you shouldn't feel guilty if you are giving yourself that time away from the game, that ultimately it will be helping you get better.
Awesome. And you've recently been the Middlesex one day captain, but ever since I was at Middlesex, you're always a leader. What do you think are some of the most important traits as a leader?
I think understanding the people that you've got in your dressing room and how to get the best out of them is important, because you've got 10 different guys in that dressing room who respond to different styles of management. So I'd say realising pretty early how to speak to people to get the best out of them, whether that's an arm around their shoulder, whether some people do need to be fired up and told to get into a battle and get angry with someone to get the best out of themselves. And we see that in international cricket a lot with people's approaches to that. So I think that a good captain will realise and understand the language that he needs to use with those people. And I think that preparation is important with captaincy. With Middlesex, I was fortunate that our analysts will send us an email 2 days out from the game with the areas that people score, with the bowlers that people struggle against, strike rates against certain bowlers, and just doing your homework, which is a lot easier in professional cricket than it is in club cricket or anything. But typically you will come up against people that you've played against before, and it's just remembering the matchups that will work well against any other player, especially from a fielding, bowling, tactical perspective. And whilst you're out there on the pitch, just having that knowledge that you've done your research, it keeps you calm out there when you've got to make decisions.
Nice one. Now, final few questions. Having had a long career, you've had the odd period of tough times. How would you advise a young player to overcome or get through a tough period where the results maybe aren't going their way?
I think it's important to have a reference point of you at your absolute best. And I use videos of me bowling in 2010 to always go back to make myself remember what it felt like then. And you can always, if you watch videos, you tend to be able to take yourself back to the time that you were playing in that moment and remember what it felt like. I think that that's important. I think that technically that's important as well, to realise, to be able to match up from the same angles, as a bowler, your action then and your action now, and look at the differences and just have that reference point of you at your best. And I think that, again, it's easy to focus on the negative aspect of performing, and as cricketers you do fail a lot more than you succeed, which is something psychologically that's very hard to deal with as a cricketer. But I think that just remembering, or whenever you do well, writing down or just having a mental checkpoint or a note of what it felt like to do well, and what it felt like whilst you're out there, and just always trying to revert back to that, and remember what it felt like, and try and A, recreate that, and B, tell yourself that you're capable of doing it and you will do it again.
Nice one. Now, you're 29, you've still got a lot of cricket ahead of you, but what does your future after cricket hold, do you reckon?
Something that I've thought about a bit recently. I'd love to stay involved in the game in some capacity. I'm not entirely sure what yet, whether that involves doing my coaching badges or something a little bit different, but I'm lucky that I love cricket. I want to play for a considerable amount of time yet, but it would be sad that once I finished my cricket career that I didn't stay within the game in some capacity. I have a couple of other interests outside of cricket, more of a executive coaching sort of role is something that potentially could interest me, but again, you need to have experience in that field to do it, so it's just remaining pragmatic about the last however many years I've got left, wanting to stay within the game in some capacity, but not really knowing how yet.
Well, hopefully it's a long way off, but last few questions I ask all of our guests is, What's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
I think the best advice that I've received is probably that when you go out there, it's an opportunity to show off what you can do. And I think that putting a positive angle on everything that you do is very important. And I think that when you step out onto the cricket pitch, you train, you practice, you push yourself to your limits in practice to practice things. It would be a shame if you didn't go out there and do those things or try those things in the middle and show what you can do. So I think that once you've prepared and once you feel like you're ready to go out there and perform, it's just about enjoying it and showing off. And I think that that's an important way to get the best out of yourself.
That allows you to play with freedom, doesn't it? What's your definition of success?
I think success is, it'd be easy to look at numbers and statistics, and to me they're important, but I think that success is knowing that you've gone out there and you've given everything you possibly could, and even if you failed, you prepared as well as you could. You went out there and you gave it your absolute best shot. You didn't hold back and you committed to everything that you did. And if you can walk off the pitch feeling like that, whether you've won, lost, gone around the park, took 7 for, if you can look at yourself in the mirror and say that I gave it absolutely everything and I left nothing in the dressing room whatsoever, then to me that is success.
Absolutely. And finally, why do you play cricket?
I play cricket because I love it. I play cricket because it's something that I grew up with. I always dreamt when I was younger that I'd be a cricketer, and I'm lucky enough to be living my dream, playing for a club that I really enjoy playing for, with a bunch of blokes that I really enjoy playing with. I think that cricket wouldn't be the game it is without the camaraderie that you have with your teammates, and I think that's one of the main reasons I play cricket, to go out there and do my best for them, and then when you do well as a team, you share that success, and there's no better feeling than sitting in the dressing room at the end of a game, whichever format it is, having won with your 10 people that you've played cricket with, blood, sweat, whatever, over the last number of days. That feeling, I think you'll struggle to recreate that in anything that you do, and it's something that every time we manage to do it as a team, we try and savour.
Absolutely. Finney, this has been awesome.
Pleasure.
Thanks so much for your time.
No worries.